Video 6, we're going to talk about precomposing or precompositions. And so remember, a composition is what holds all your footage. So it is actually the video that you're creating with all the multiple layers. Well, there are ways to create your compositions within side compositions with layers. And what we call is if you have multiple layers that you want to say, hey, this would be easier to make as a composition, you would just precompose it. So I brought up this video and if you guys notice it, it's actually the lower thirds for the videos that you guys watch within this class. And I kind of wanted to show you just the breakdown of what goes into creating a precomposition, so precomposing. And the way to think about this is, again, if I have multiple layers and I'm trying to group these layers to create a single layer to kind of help break down and make a little bit less within my timeline. And so this would be called nesting. Okay, most of the time we'll just say precompositions, but it's also known as nesting. So if out in the industry you start working with this, they'll kind of ask about that. And the nested compositions are sometimes referred to as also being upstream or downstream, working towards the root composition. And what I mean by that, so I've actually got this composition, I've got another composition, I've got 4 compositions within inside this one composition. And if I want to look at it, if I click on this composition mini flowchart, it's going to show that I've got this chapter title box that feeds into this composition that we're currently working in. These dash bottom, which is what when I scrub along, I'm going to notice up at the top and the bottom, they've got these marks that I've used. And then I also have the video logo. And if I click on that, it will bring me to that composition. So it shows this is a composition, so I have these 3 different text layers along inside this shape. So that is what creates this logo or this composition just for this spot within this video or composition that I've created. Okay, so that's another way if you start to create multiple compositions, a way to kind of follow along within the composition here is your flowchart. I will also see that flowchart up here if I bring that up and I can switch the direction if I want to, but it's just knowing that this is what's upstream and working downstream towards the composition that everything is feeding into. Now, when I look at this composition network, I'm thinking about, okay, what is the benefit of using and precomposing different things? So again, I've talked about if you have multiple layers, so for myself within this, every single time I go to export this out or render it out to use on top of the video that I've created, all I have to do is go, okay, I'm actually going to go to this title box, all right, which is right here. I've already got it open, but if I wanted to go to the chapter title box, okay, I open it up, I can say, and let's go ahead and grab my text, and I'm going to say, okay, let's create the first one. So chapter 3, we talk about shapes. Oop, not shape. Okay, shapes. So I made this change within this composition. Now if I go back to, there you go, it has made a change. Now that's a very easy change, I can almost do that, but the nice thing is to know that I can reuse this. I could put this composition into another composition, and anytime I make a change here, it's going to change whether it's in this composition or another composition that I've already created. And I can also update it by, as you saw, one step. I made a change here, it automatically changed within this composition that I really want to use it. So it's kind of easier if you have multiple layers and you're adding transitions or effects and you have made a pre-composition. It's going to help you kind of work a little bit faster. Again, it's just trying to keep with what I showed you with that flowchart with a composition navigator, as we like to call it, the mini flowchart. But so you have your composition so if I was working with the title box, if I had another one that was inside this, so let's say I create, and this is again, I'll show you really quick. This is going to be a basic one just using 2 shapes, but I'll grab and shift click, have both these. I can either right click and go to precompose, and let me just solve this title in title box. I don't know, just creating something just to show you. And so now I've created another pre-composition, and so as you see, it has the composition. It's kind of pointless on that. So we've got the composition that goes into the actual chapter title box that goes into and feeds into this composition that I'm creating. So again, it can get kind of complicated, but the best thing to think about is anytime you create a multiple one, and I'll bring this open again. So I've created this shape, and say I wanted to make a change to these all together. I can come in here and I can make a change to the video or the animation or even the shape. Maybe I wanted to come in here and change color. Let's do that. Let's go into content and drag this up just a little bit. And we go to rectangle and I go to fill and I say, you know what, I want to make this, let's make it blue. So I made it blue, made that change, come back to it's made that blue. All right, and I can go, you know what, I don't like that. Oop, let's go to the video logo and I'll Control Z, made it back. Again, shows that it's back to the same thing. So it's kind of a nice way to kind of, again, stay organized and have a workflow and compress some of your layers so you don't have as many. But you're going to notice that kind of compositions, it's like when do I want to create a or pre-compose. It's if you're working, like I said, with multiple layers that you go, hey, this would be nice as a composition by itself, and that you could use it later on. So that's kind of what you're going to do. You don't have to, but again, it just kind of helps save space and create different compositions that you can use within different compositions themselves or nest within other compositions. So that's pre-composing in a nutshell. But if you ask many editors within After Effects, precomposing is probably one of the coolest features that helps save time and also kind of helps save your mind as well.